There is not a lot of published literature that allows us to delve deeper at the required depth of this emerging scientific question. For example, there are not sufficient observations of the uptake of heat, particularly into the deep ocean. That would be one of the possible mechanisms to explain this warming hiatus.
That was a lot of gobbledygook, wasn't it? That was a spokesman for the United Nations climate lobby called the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And that was his obfuscation when asked the basic question, why hasn't the world warmed in 15 years if we're worried about global warming? And his answer was, well, we don't really know, but let's not let a simple fact like a lack of global warming stop us from worrying about global warming. Let us talk now to someone who is not afraid to ask these questions, and we're talking about Tom Harris, who joins us from Ottawa. Tom, welcome back to the show. You're with the International Climate Science Coalition, which is sort of a private rebuttal, an academic and scholarly rebuttal to the UN scientists. I thought that was a pretty foggy answer to a crystal clear question. If we should be panicking about global warming, why hasn't there been any global warming since 1998?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, their computer models are all off. And, you know, Professor Howard Hayden from the University of Connecticut, he pointed out something very interesting, that as their models have gone farther and farther from the actual data, in other words, as their mistake has increased in all the 5 assessment reports, their confidence has increased, okay? So we're actually seeing them go from, oh, it could be caused by humans to it's likely to now it's 95% or greater probable. As you can see in this graph here, this shows the amount, the height of the bar shows the amount that they're wrong. Okay, so as the amount increases, you can see their confidence along the bottom has increased too. Okay, so that's like
so bizarre. I mean, that's a psychological trait. That's called brazening it out. That's called denial. In politics, we would just call that BS. In fact, the more wrong you are, just just put on your game face, put on your poker face, and bluff. I mean, that's really what this is, right? I mean, for 15 years you're getting it wrong and wronger and wronger and wronger. But they say, no. We're super certain now. We were sort of certain.
Now we're right. Yeah, we're super
duper snoopy with a cherry on top. I got my fingers crossed how super confident.
In law school, they say that if the facts are on your side, you pound the facts. But if the facts are not on your side, you pound the table. Yes. And so the UN is pounding the table harder and harder. We're right.
Well, look, I mean, the UN isn't just scientists. I call them scientist politicians, or really lobbyists. There's so much invested in this inertia.
$1 billion a day is going into the climate scare now.
$1 billion a day. Now, break that down. That's a lot of money. Who's paying for this? And where's it going? Because, I mean, just something as simple as the facts being wrong ain't going to stop a $1 billion a day industry. Tell me a bit more about this money. What do you mean by $1 billion a day?
The Climate Policy Initiative out of San Francisco did an analysis where they were tracing down all the climate finance in the world, like paying for wind turbines or solar panels that are supposed to stop climate change. And the number they came out with, it was announced on October 22nd of this year, the number they came out with was $357 billion in 2012. And 94% of that, almost all of it, went to supposedly stopping climate change, say 50 or 100 years from now. And most of that is actually going to things like wind and solar power, mostly government subsidies because they can't stand on their own, but they're all focused on trying to stop climate change. Now, the interesting thing is only 6% of that, almost $1 billion a day, is going to help real people today, like in the Sahel or in other parts of the world where natural climate change causes many problems, as it always has. So essentially, what we're saying through the UN and through other groups is that the fate of people yet to be born is more important than those suffering today. So this is ridiculous, and it's really immoral.
I'm going to disagree with your interpretation because you are giving the benefit of the doubt that lobbyists and schemers and scammers who are rent-seeking, to use an economist word, trying to basically get subsidies, that they're doing it, as you suggest in good faith, for future generations. Someone who builds a massively subsidized wind turbine in Ontario in 2013 Sure, they may say they're doing that for future generations. I care about the children, but they're doing that to make a profit.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in Ontario as opposed to, say, Saskatchewan or wherever, because Ontario pays massive profitable subsidies. So I don't think we should give these folks the benefit. If someone is making a personal sacrifice, living less large, reducing their own climate footprint, giving money to charity, I'd say, okay, they're a true believer. But someone who takes advantage of this green mania to make a big profit by building wind turbines, I don't think they deserve the benefit of that. I think we just call them a sharp businessman with a keen eye for a sucker.
Yeah, they're opportunists. And of course, that's what a lot of the media are with respect to this issue. I mean, they haven't seen a crisis they don't want to capitalize and sell papers. But you know, I asked an editor of an Eastern Canadian newspaper recently, why is it that you only show one side of the climate debate? Do you have anybody on staff who even has a degree in science who can assess who's right? And he said, oh, well, no, we don't have anybody on staff. So I said, why are you then pushing only one side, the alarmist side? And he said to me, and this is his exact words, he said, well, if we covered your side, our advertisers wouldn't like it. And I thought, yeah, that's partly because subscriptions, of course, or circulation is based partly on how exciting your news can be, but it's also because, you know, major organizations like Canon Printing and others are buying full-page color ads saying that they're helping stop climate change. So the last thing you want is an op-ed on the other side saying you can't stop climate change.
Yeah.
So
I disagree. I disagree with your media friend. I don't think it's for business reasons, because I think there's actually a great interest in the skeptical side of the climate change theory. I think it's because most journalists are true believers in this new superstitious cult-like belief in global warming. I don't think it's a business. I can respect a business decision in a private sector newspaper. That's not what this is. It's because the reporters are true believers, Tom. We're out of time.
I don't think the editor wanted to admit it.
Yeah.
But you know, I think you're right. It's part of the left-wing ideal to support this cause.
Well, and it's part of their anti-industry bias. Tom, we got to go. Great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us, and happy Christmas to you. Folks.